Well, I have my two trusty sources, the New York Times and the Zen Page-a-Day calendar. A few days ago, Peter Matheson, of course, the famous Zen teacher who lived and worked on Long Island. This is Zen 101 right here, right? Listen, Zen is really just a reminder to stay alive and to be awake. We tend to daydream all the time, speculating about the future and dwelling on the past. Zen practice is about appreciating your life in this moment. He says, if you're truly aware 5 minutes a day, you're doing pretty well. So that's an encouragement for you. We are beset by both the future and the past. And we'll speak more about that in a minute. And there is no reality apart from the here and now. That's all that's real. The power of now, Eckhart Tolle, right? So, pretty basic stuff, right? So, you might have noticed an op-ed piece a week ago Sunday in the Times, in the Sunday Review, entitled, "Actually, let's not be in the moment." So, it's kind of a challenge, right? I may have missed, I'm sure there'd be all sorts of responses to this, but I haven't seen them. Maybe I probably missed it. This is by a woman named Ruth Whitman. It says she's the author of, quotes, "America the Anxious, How Our Pursuit of Happiness is Creating a Nation of Nervous Wrecks." Well, that much Zen would agree with, you know. If we're pursuing happiness, like we are pursuing this thing that we think we know is called happiness, well, of course, we're going to become a nervous wreck. So, that's not what we need to do. We need to be in the moment. But then she comes back and says, that's not right either. Right. Well, let's see what she says. So what she's talking about is, here she is, you know, tired, and she's looking at the leaky orange glob in the sink in front of me. All right, so she's cleaning up in the kitchen. She's got these stale SpaghettiOs, it turns out. She's looking at this orange glob. So this is the moment. This is what, you know, we're supposed to be present to. Well, let's see what she says. She does say, you know, this can be mindful dishwashing. Mindful, you know, as Zen says itself, there can be mindful motorcycle maintenance, there's mindful archery, there's mindful tea ceremonies. So yeah, you can take ordinary activities and do them mindfully, except what do we mean by that? Because she goes on to say, this is a special circle of self-improvement hell. Yeah, if you're approaching it as self-improvement, well, that's totally counterproductive. You are not trying to improve yourself, whatever that is. So yes, of course, anytime you've got in that mentality, well, then you're going to make a nervous wreck and a frustrated self, whatever that means, whatever self you have. So yeah, we don't want that. That comes up again. She uses self-improvement again in the article. But then she also says it in the next sentence. It's as if the key to contentment lies in living fully, mentally in the present. No! Not mentally! No! Get out of your head! You know, if you're living mentally in the present, then you're still in your head and you're still going to be a nervous wreck. Because you're going to be pulled in, you know, you're not going to be integrated. And that's not what we mean by Zen presence, by being in the moment. Now, she does have a good criticism here, and you probably read this about, you know, corporate America using, quotes, mindfulness, you know, to streamline the productivity of their employees, you know, and athletic teams and the military and corporations, you know, are using mindfulness to basically make more productive robots. Yeah, so that's perverse, and that can be very exploitative, and that's also not what we mean by really waking up and being in the present. So yeah, there is that trap with it. And then she also says later on that there can be, you know, in those who are proposing this, and this is a danger for us teachers and even for us practitioners, you know, we have this, what does she call it? Moralizing smugness. Like, I'm mindful and you are not mindful. So you have this superiority complex which comes in with the spiritual people, and amen, that's very true. We have to be very careful. And in other words, if you really do wake up and are in the moment, well, the ego disappears and there's nobody to be smug. So if you're feeling smug, well, then you're not in the moment. You're in your ego, which is never in the moment. Never. So, okay. So what do we mean? What should we mean by being in the moment? Well, let's look at, she says lives are more fulfilling lived outside the present than in it. Well, no. She gives the example, well, you can be doing the dishes but thinking of a vacation in Bangkok, she says, or being in Don Draper's bed, if you know Mad Men show. That's just, you're in the smoke and mirrors of your own imagination, which might be good for making a work of art, maybe, but not for being alive here in the moment. So, magical sense of scope, so you can outstare your SpaghettiOs. Outstare your SpaghettiOs. Because that's not magical. Yes, it is! If you're really present to the SpaghettiOs, then you're what? Present to the whole universe! Right there in the SpaghettiO. You're not going deep enough. There are so many koans that talk about this. There's one, for example, that comes up, Tozan's magazine, it comes up in both the Blue Cliff record and the Mamonkan, where, he's asked, what the Buddha is, what reality is, and he says, 3 pounds of flax. The most ordinary, unobtrusive, unimpressive, everyday reality, 3 pounds of flax. I mean, it's right there. Or another famous one, of course, in the Mamonkan, where basically translated. I've spoken about this before. Basically, when he's asked what the Buddha is, he says it's toilet paper. You can't get much humbler and more everyday than that. Or Joshu's famous one, number 45 in the Blue Cliff record, where he's asked what the Buddha is, and he says, "Well, I made this shirt, the other day. It's very comfortable." This is the Buddha. Doing the laundry. Mindful laundry. Because it's all there. It's not that you're mentally present to something. It's the whole thing is, there's no separation anymore. There's just the whole universe right then and there. So that's what we mean by really being present in the moment. And there's no sign of that in here. She proposes that our happiness does not come so much from our experiences themselves, all right, but from the stories we tell ourselves that make them matter. No. This is what Eckhart Tolle has to say about that. And she's right. It doesn't just come from the experience itself as such. It comes from the way we live it, what kind of consciousness we bring to it. Here's what he says. Through awakened doing, you become one with the outgoing purpose of the whole universe. So, the whole universe is at work when you're really awake, So it's not the exact experience itself in some kind of objective way, but the whole lived experience of it, which includes everything. Consciousness flows through you into the world. It flows into your thoughts and inspires them. It flows into what you do and guides and empowers it. So, not what you do, he says, but how you do what you do determines whether you are fulfilling your destiny and enjoying it and being fully awake. So it's true. It's not what you do as such. It's how you do it. It's not the story you tell yourself about it, which is just taking a step back from it and letting the ego come in. But the quality of consciousness that you bring to it. Now she does raise a number of times, difficult circumstances that the present moment can bring you. What about moments that are grinding, humiliating, exhausting, or situations where there are bad marriages, work stress, poverty, race discrimination? Do you just enjoy the moment? She has a point. Or talking about the workplace. Is it about instructing them in mindful breathing or giving them paid vacation and health benefits? or the simple example that he quotes on the very next page here in Eckhart Tolle, you probably won't be able to enjoy changing the flat tire on your car at night in the middle of nowhere in pouring rain, okay? But you can bring acceptance to it. So this is what happens in situations like what could and should happen. If you start, in all these situations that she mentioned, if you start by basically being there, having a tranquil initial acceptance of what the situation is, even if it's humiliating or grinding or unjust or whatever it might be, then from that space of inner acceptance and tranquility, clarity, openness, then spontaneously from that, and this is something Bernie Glassman would emphasize all the time, spontaneously from that you have enough connection with yourself and with the situation to know how to respond in an effective, direct way, or not, whatever can be done in the situation. So yeah, fight for a paid vacation, if that's what's going to happen, but it has to start from a place, for your sake and for the issue's sake, from a place of inner tranquility and balance and openness and clarity, So it's not just about accepting whatever is here just because it's here as a final stage, but it is about having a basic acceptance and awareness of the situation as an initial stage. But all that's part of, awakened consciousness. So that is an important point to make. And then the final main point is this question of past and future that we heard Peter Matheson talking about a moment ago, that we've often talked about. She says, now surely, one of the most magnificent feats and features of the human brain is its ability to hold past, present, and future, and their imagined alternatives in constant parallel. So part of our human capacity, as opposed to the animals or whatever, is that we can hold these different dimensions and time frames. Okay, now we did talk a few weeks ago about psychotherapy, and I think I made the point then that you're not really talking about the past when you're talking about your emotional issues that may come from the past. You're talking about the now, how they actually affect your affect right here and now. So in that sense, they're not the past. I mean, you can mind the past on trying to understand them better, but you have to deal with them in the present. So that's an important point to make already. That those things are really quite present. They're part of the present moment right here and now. They're part of your fabric right here and now. But in the broader scale, yes, in the broader scheme of things, yes, you should make arrangements for your retirement and your 401k or whatever it might be, so that you're not walking around at 75 on the street with a begging cup. Unless you want to. And that could be a lifestyle. But if that's not what you want, okay, fine. Take care of it and put it aside. Don't fuss and fume and worry and be anxious every day about, oh my God, what's going to happen if this or if that. No, that's totally counterproductive. And that's not what we're talking about. Do what you need to do in the moment, and then let it go. As you know, 98% of what goes on in our head is repetitive and useless. It's just worry. And worry is never useful. And of course, the past the same way. You can be aware of what you may have done wrong. You can't be overcome all the time with guilt and regret and distress. And, oh my God, how could I have done? No, that's just the ego fussing over itself, preferring to have been perfect, or whatever it is. No, it's just not human life. So you let that go. Let it flow. If you've taken care of whatever part you need to ask. But that's, from others. But that's the important thing, not to let yourself be consumed with that. And even the good memories. This is important. Even the good memories. People who really live in the moment and are awake and alive and happy don't need to go back to even real memories from the past that were pleasant and wonderful. Because they have the pleasant and wonderful immediacy of right now. You don't go back to it. I like to compare it to a jewel box. Or a box of scents, S-C-E-N-T-S, that you can, if you want, open up, but most of the time it's just on your shelf. It's fine, but you don't go back to it. How many of you look at your photograph albums? Same kind of thing. So really, 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 you do live in the present, and that's where you find your fullness. So finally, she concludes. So perhaps, rather than expending our energy struggling to stay in the moment, we should simply be grateful that our brains allow us to be elsewhere. No. No. Okay.